So now let's focus our attention on adding data to a spreadsheet. And for that, we'll click back over to Book 1, our empty spreadsheet. And we'll go up and launch the Add Data tool, which is accessible both from the menu and also from the toolbar. And what the Add Data tool allows you to do, first off, is choose the symbol that you're interested in. In this case, we'll keep EURUSD. It allows you to then choose your data range specifications. So there's two types of data ranges. There are streaming data ranges, which are rolling windows of data that update in real time, that have an index from 0, which is the most recent or the most current data point or bar, and on down to the end of the range or the length of the range, for example 20 as shown here in that field. The other type of data that's available is historical data, and you're able to either use a start and end date time, or you're able to use an ending time that can be, for example, now going back this number that's specified in back count. And so back count here is showing as 10. You can organize the data as it's added to the spreadsheet in descending or ascending order. We're going to go ahead though and work with streaming data for purposes of this example. And the next thing that we select is the frequency. And we can see there's a multiplier field, and then we have various aggregation levels: seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and then of course ticks. And this is one interesting aspect of the FXone platform. You're basically able to get any frequency of data that you desire because FXone does the data aggregation on the fly from broker-supported frequencies of data or from tick data if required. And so if you want 30-second bars, you can simply specify 30 in the multiplier field and specify seconds, and you get 30-second bars even though your broker does not officially support 30-second bars. And this works both for streaming and historical data, including as you move forward and actually do trading in real time. For purposes of this example, we'll just leave that at 1, and we'll actually go with ticks. And then down in the properties section, you have the ability to choose either the bid or the ask or the mid price. Mid price is computed by FXone from the bid and the ask. That is available, and as are the other two if supported by your broker. And actually, before we select ticks, we'll go back to seconds for just a moment. When you're choosing aggregation frequency other than ticks, one of these regularly spaced frequencies, you then have the ability to choose what attributes you're interested in. And you can choose all of these: open, high, low, close, as well as volume if volume is available and supported by your broker, or you can choose any one or a subset of them. And again, for purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to take ticks and we're going to use the mid price. We want to display it on a vertical orientation. That's usually best practice for working within FXone. That means your data will go descending, most recent data at the top, and then going down in a vertical fashion in descending order. And show date time, this is an optional field that in the column adjacent to the data itself, you will actually get the date time for each and every data point, whether that be ticks or whether that be regularly spaced data. Show header is another option that just shows you what the data is by placing a label within the cells immediately above the data that gets entered into the spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead now and take our streaming data range of 0 to 20, ticks, midpoint, and we're going to leave show date time and show header on, and we're going to go ahead and add that starting in cell A1. We'll just hit apply. We'll go do and get the historical data request to initialize that streaming range. That was that dialog that popped up briefly. And the add data dialog will stay open. You can add additional data at will. We're not going to do that now, so we'll go ahead and close it. We can see here that we now have EURUSD, the date time column, we have tick level data, and we see that it is updating in real time, both the timestamps as well as the tick values themselves. So again, we can see our data here updating in real time. And we can now manipulate that data in any way that we want with all of the standard Excel functions and logic. So for example, we'll create the 1 period change in the tick data simply by adding a formula here. We'll just say equals the current period minus the prior period. And we'll submit that. And then we'll just replicate that formula downward in the column by just dragging the corner downward. So now we have the 1 period change. We'll just delete that value there at the end, which is subtracting the very last value in the range from essentially an empty cell. So now we have the change in values for the 0th through the 19th. So we have 20 total values here, all updating in real time. And we can now further process this data with any other Excel function or logic. So we'll go ahead and create the average of those changes by simply typing equals average, and we just grab that range and put our close parenthesis in. So now we have the average of those values updating in real time. These are very small values, very close to 0, so we see scientific notation as the automatic format there, but we can of course format that however we would like. That's the same behavior that we would get if we did this exact same operation within Excel. So now we can add a chart just like we would in Excel. You can either right click and choose add chart from the menu, or you can go up to the toolbar and just click the add chart hot button, and then you right click on the chart, go into the chart editor, and the chart editor looks very much like what you would see inside of standard Excel. It has all of those same functionalities. You can choose the various chart types that you might like, and for the data we'll go in here and choose rows, and we'll go ahead and add our range C2 to C21, and we can see that we now have all of those changes in the tick price, the midpoint of course, updating in real time as you see it both here in the data and now here in the chart. And we can of course format all sorts of aspects of the chart, many things that are just too numerous to mention here. We'll go ahead and close the editor out, and maybe we want to add some conditional formatting to these cells just to improve the visual impact of these values. So we'll go ahead and we'll right click on that, and we'll go back into our range editor. We see all sorts of the functionality that we would see inside editing a range within Excel, and in this case we want to add conditional formats, so we'll go ahead and say new conditional format. If the cell value is greater than 0, we're going to say we want an interior color that's green, and then we'll add another conditional format. If the cell value is less than 0, then we want to have an interior color that is red, and then we'll go ahead and close that. So now we've just done a few basic operations to sort of work with this data, and hopefully this gives you a good idea of how easy it is to add real-time data to an FXone workbook and then manipulate that and create custom visualizations. If we would like to change the data in an existing workbook from one symbol or one frequency or one property or attribute or all of those things to another, we simply right-click and use the Change Data Specs tool from the context menu. And the Change Data Specs tool will allow you to choose either a range within your workbook or an entire sheet or the entire workbook. In this case we want the particular sheet that we're on, and so we'll use that. Here you can choose the symbol that from a symbol that you have in the workbook. In this case we only have EUR/USD present in the workbook, to any symbol that we'd like to switch it to. In this case we'll just choose $. You have the ability here to change the frequency of the data by enabling this checkbox. So instead of ticks we'll go to 1 second data. And here you can change the property from bid to ask or to mid, whichever you like, assuming those are available from your broker, and also change open, high, low, close, volume. You can change this attribute as well on the data. And you have other functionality here. You can affect just the sim custom function formulas that actually underlie the data. If you click on any of these data cells, you'll see in the formula bar that custom function sim, and you'll see the parameters for that data, the last value being the index, in this case the 0th index. And so you can change just those formulas, or you can also select and change all cells, and that would also change any reference to a symbol that is formatted, as you see here in these symbol selection controls, whether they be a label inside of a cell or any kind of other reference to that symbol inside trading logic, for example. All of those references would be changed to the new symbol, so in this case pound dollar. And you have then these options to convert ticks to bars or bars to ticks. In this case we're going from ticks to bars, so we're going to go ahead and say convert ticks to bars. And we'll go ahead and hit apply, and it's going to tell us what it's doing, changing Euro USD to pound dollar from any frequency to 1 second frequency in the selected sheet. We'll go ahead and hit OK. It's going to tell us that it's going to use the selected attribute, even though we don't have it enabled. It's going to use the close, of course, because we didn't have to choose an attribute for the tick data. We'll hit OK, and then it's going to tell us that when we close the dialog, it's going to check for that historical data and initialize. So we'll go ahead and do that. And it will go out and get that pound dollar data and stick it into the sheet, fully initialized. And as we can see, it changed both the label, pound to pound dollar from Euro USD. Inside the sim custom functions, it changed Euro USD to pound dollar. And then the 1 second timestamp can be seen here. We've got effectively 1 second in between each of these timestamps that are now updating and rolling down that range of data. Here that there's not very much movement in the price of the pound dollar currently. There's quite a few instances where the 1 second data is unchanged as it moves forward in time, which is why we see those zeros and we see the empty or missing columns within our chart. Now we'll go ahead and just change that back to Euro USD for the rest of our example. So I'll go back and change pound dollar to Euro USD. I'm going to convert bars to ticks and choose ticks, and we'll go ahead and hit apply, OK, and OK, and we'll close that, and we'll see that get initialized back to streaming Euro USD tick data.